Thank you all for joining this webinar around ensuring boardroom peace of mind. My name is Colin Tinsley. I'll be leading our webinar today and going over a little bit about who we are as an organization, what we do, and then also walking you through a little bit of a product demonstration so you have a chance to see OnBoard in action. So I will just state on a housekeeping item, like I mentioned, this is being recorded, but we will also have, there's a Q&A here in the Zoom menu. Also, there's a chat. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this. Ask if you have questions, as soon as they pop into your head, throw it into that Q&A section there. I'll get to all questions. If it's product related, I'll try to get to it as we're kind of navigating the product demo, because I think that's more powerful to be able to speak to it while reviewing OnBoard. But at the very least, we will have a Q&A session at the end of the meeting today. Additionally, there will be a couple of poll questions just for us to get a better understanding of who's on the call, what some of your needs are, and that will sort of help dictate where we take this product demo to make sure you all are getting the most out of the conversation. So again, if you have any comments, there's a chat as well, but the Q&A for questions, please direct all questions to that section here so I can get to them later. But yeah, it's great to meet everyone. My name is Colin Tinsley. As I said at the onset, I am a senior board consultant here at OnBoard. I have been in the board management space for the better part of 6 years. So I've really worked closely with and consulted with a lot of boards of directors and other organizations that are looking to drive efficiency, compliance, security around their board management process. So in this conversation today, we're going to talk a little bit about OnBoard, again, about who we are, what we do, and to kind of set the stage for OnBoard as an organization. I know, some of you may have heard of us, but some of you may not have. OnBoard, we are a board portal provider. Board portal is probably the easiest way to describe what this software is. But for some context around us as an organization, we work with over 5,000 board-led organizations. So OnBoard really truly is useful for any organization with any type of governance structure, but we like to say board-led organizations. We serve over 12,000 committees, and then obviously some other statistics there. We are heavily represented here in the United States, but also have over 50 plus countries that where OnBoard is used. So we continue to grow and continue to serve more and more organizations, regardless of vertical or industry. So today's goals and what we're hoping to get out of this session today, I mentioned earlier, we will kind of explore feature function to go over, how you use OnBoard to ensure efficient board management, to ensure compliance. So we will kind of showcase our platform and how user-friendly and intuitive it is. I'll also kind of examine OnBoard security procedures and data protection practices. Obviously, as an organization, you're going to be looking to that with any sort of product to host board information or board data. You're going to want to make sure that that OnBoard fits the bill there. So we'll cover that as well. Before we get started, I mentioned we'd have some polls. So we'll start with our first one here today. You should see a prompt come up with the question. So for those on the call, if you can, would love to know what your role is on your organization's board. How are you helping support? Are you an administrator? Are you just a director? Are you in the C-suite or on the leadership team? We'll let that marinate for a little bit, and then once the results come up, we'll move on to the next poll question. Oh wow, we've got a very even breakdown here. We've got about really pretty even split. A little more heavily skewed toward administrators. So we will want to make sure that we spend some time today when we're in the demo focusing on some of the administrative board setup functionality here within the tool. All right, poll question number 2. So biggest challenge. We're trying to figure out, okay, why are you evaluating or interested in learning more about OnBoard? What are you hoping to get out of today's session? So if you could kind of speak to what your biggest challenge is when it comes to your board management process. So we've got lack of centralized board management process, time-consuming workflows. We want more security or fragmented communication across your governance structure, across your boards, your committees, internal groups, et cetera. Thank you for the participation. I'll give it another second here. Okay. All right. Well, interesting. So we see lack of centralized board management process and fragmented board and committee communication seem to be the most common here. Didn't see anyone security. So I think that's interesting. I think what we're looking at here is, improving communication, streamlining the board management process, having a more central environment where directors and all users can access everything they need in one place. Um, Sounds like that's going to be top of mind today. So we'll make sure to cover that here. So real quick, before we jump into a product demo, just kind of want to talk about how OnBoard helps around compliance and security. So um, I kind of look at onboard security in two ways. There's platform security, like how we protect your data. So, Microsoft Azure Cloud is where we host all of our client data. There's the SOC 2 Type 2 compliance. We're doing regular penetration testing. Data is encrypted in transit at rest and on mobile devices. All of that good stuff, around limiting your liability as an organization. But another thing that a lot of organizations really like about OnBoard is, especially IT departments, security departments, is that it is very hands-off from your perspective. The data is uploaded into OnBoard. Users have, an authentication process. So we do have Face ID, Touch ID, two-factor authentication. There are things that you can sort of enable on the back end to make sure it meets your, sort of security procedures or protocols. But then you can rest easy knowing that, knowing that the information is secure once it's housed in there. And, we do additional things to ensure, and limit liability, like, you know, like obfuscating the meeting ID and letting you decide how long you want meeting chats to stick around, remote lock, remote wipe, things like that you sort of control to ensure that you're in compliance with your own procedures. So overall, OnBoard creates just a very secure experience. And in 10 years of doing this, we've never had any sort of security incident with our clients. So it's something we really hang our hat on. So now around like streamlining oversight and compliance, speaking to some of the features here within OnBoard that we plan to cover today to ensure compliance. And we'll cover these here in the demo here in a second, but just want to speak to a few of these. Obviously, OnBoard is going to create a historical system of record for you. You think of it as like, well, we're going to manage our upcoming meetings, board agendas, board minutes, that sort of thing. But it also creates a really secure repository for document storage. And also allows you to set very granular permissions. So you want to control who has access to what information and what communication through the tool. We make it very easy to do that. A lot of organizations will involve examiners, auditors, third parties that need to come in, get access to the tool. We can issue logins, permission their access to the tool, and ensure that they're only seeing information we want them to see or need them to be privy to. So it just really creates an environment where users see only the information that's pertinent to them or that we've assigned to them. You'll see at the bottom where it says user groups. That's just how we manage very easily, who sees what. Oh, this is board related. Oh, this is that committee related. I'm not on that committee. Okay, well, I don't see that in OnBoard. So you really can create, an environment, again, where, people see what they need to see and you don't have to worry about information getting out to the wrong parties. And then we have action items, action tools. We'll cover those as well. Voting and approvals, e-signatures, things that you need to do to, stay in compliance. Hey, we need you to sign this. This is a conflict of interest form. Oh, we've updated our policies. We need you to review and approve. Things where you can engage the board electronically. Keep that system of record, that audit trail for those action items and track when and when those took place, who was involved. And have that record. OnBoard creates that as well. So really from a compliance standpoint, does a lot to make sure that you're staying on top of that information and it's easy to produce when you need to produce it. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and we can jump into OnBoard. So I'm going to do a little bit of a product overview. I think we're going to spend a little bit more time on the administrative side of OnBoard, focusing on giving you a full picture of how OnBoard works for your organization. So I will go ahead and share my screen here. And what you should be seeing is in my Chrome browser, I am able to log in from just onboardmeetings.com. I am logged in this case as an administrator in the tool. And what we are looking at is the OnBoard dashboard. So this will become, if you choose to implement OnBoard, this will become, sort of the lifeblood of your board and your communication with board and committee members. This is the portal where they will go, that one-stop shop where they will come to access everything they need. I am an administrator, like I said, so I'm set up here right from the directory. That's where we manage our users. It's very easy to go into the directory and we manage who our users are, what their permissions are, what groups they're a part of, what are their roles and terms. We want to track term information. We want to track what are their roles within maybe not just the board, but their specific committees as well. We can really, from a roster management standpoint, handle all of that from the directory. Each user will have a user profile. Like Gilbert here, we can see Gilbert's contact information, his role within the portal, a biography, even track his skills. So what does Gilbert bring to the table as a member of this board? What are some of his skill sets that he's bringing to the board? And maybe, what are some of the skill sets that we're perhaps lacking? We have an entire skills matrix tool built in so that we can, stay on top of any gaps. I can also see the groups that Gilbert is a part of. I can see here that he sits on the audit committee, is also a member of our board of directors, and just tells me here I need to go in and set an end date because he's on an open-ended term. So that's just information that we can track here at the user level. From a compliance standpoint, we can come in here within Gilbert. He gets back to me letting me know that he lost his password. We can easily reset passwords. We can easily change permissions. We can deactivate the user if, it's an auditor that just needs temporary access or Gilbert retires. We can easily remove their access from the tool. We can even wipe devices remotely. Gilbert is on vacation and left his iPad on the plane and gives us a call and says, hey, I had OnBoard, the OnBoard app on my iPad. We can go ahead and just lock that device down. So from a roster management standpoint, all of that can be handled here. We can set up groups. So for our boards and committees, they are represented within the tool, roles and terms, as I mentioned. And then the skills side of it, tracking those skill sets and kind of seeing where we are perhaps deficient in creating a well-rounded board. So if I click on the chart here, I can see we're looking at a gap here within operations experience. So we may want to look for someone that has maybe mergers and acquisitions experience or operations experience when we are succession planning in the future. Under skills, we can add our own skills. These are some of our house or out-of-the-box skill sets that we've built into the tool, but you can create your own skills bank so that you're capturing those skill sets that are important to your organization or whatever that might be. I did see a question come in. I'm going to answer this now because it's pertinent to what we're showing. Do members self-report these skills through Portal? The answer is they can. The other option is that you can do that on their behalf. But if I want to identify my own skills here in the portal, I can submit those, and those would be reviewed by the administrators. So that would be managed here, as would your roster within the directory here. So super easy to manage users, add users, set up roles, permissions, terms, all of that can easily be tracked in here. Back to the dashboard. And I want to spend some time on the dashboard here because it's really important to the overall user experience. A user logs into OnBoard, and they're going to see a very similar view to what I'm seeing. Admin view, director view is essentially the same thing. The admin is just able to see a little bit more. I can edit content. I can configure how the layout looks. I can move things around if I don't like, the order in which things appear. But you get to decide what do you want to appear on the dashboard. And that's really important because the dashboard is like the landing page for board members. They log in, they end up here, and you want them to be able to see what's most important and have that access within a click. So like this audit committee meeting, this board meeting, I can open the board packet for that meeting. I can join the Zoom right from my dashboard. I have my to-dos. Like, so if we're using this for something as, sort of, maybe less important in the scheme of things like a meal order. Hey, we're having a board retreat. We sent out the menu. We want you to go ahead and cast your vote. Or it might be like a conflict of interest form or your self-assessment where we need that user to fill this out, to complete it. And again, it's showing up on their dashboard because we want that added visibility to it. Now, in something like a board assessment or a board packet that gets posted or anything that goes out in OnBoard, it will trigger a notification. As an administrator, you have the ability to, when that goes out, I'll show you when you move it to open, it will trigger essentially a notice that looks like this. It will come out and it will say, do you want to notify them? And then you have the ability to send a reminder in this case, or in that case, a notification, and just let them know that, that item has been published. So they'll get a notification. There's also a notifications tab here on the left-hand side of the screen. That will be highlighted if there are notifications since they last logged in. That just ensures that nothing slips through the cracks. They're able to see a list of any new notifications to make sure that anything that's been put out into the portal that they're privy to. So that's how the dashboard can look. I've got whatever information you want displayed here, you can display it. So I've got, some just key policies and bylaws I want easy access to. I want to do items and I want upcoming meetings. And then I've got this, welcome message. You decide, the administrators decide what they want this space to look like. It's all about easy access. Now on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see different corresponding panels. Meetings is an important one. Let's dive into that. So within OnBoard, you'll have this meeting panel. You will also be able to see your meeting calendar. I can filter by past, upcoming, or board or committee meeting. So if I'm looking for specifics, it makes it very easy for me to toggle between different meetings. Once meetings are in the past, as this August board meeting is, it is archived. And I keep a record of the meeting. I keep a record of the minutes from that meeting, the materials from that meeting, who attended, all of that creates a historical record in here. So I can always go back and pull information from that meeting. Audit trail. I've got this meeting coming up in December. And you can see it's all been published here. But if I wanted to, let's say this is the first meeting of the year and you've built your agenda and then you want to take that meeting and you want to replicate it. A lot of organizations we work with have a very similar meeting to meeting process, meaning we invite a lot of the same people from one board meeting to the next. The agenda stays somewhat similar. And, it's easier for us to just create a template versus starting from scratch with a new meeting every time. So let's say this is our framework for that meeting. We can go in here and then there's a duplicate option, which is really, really helpful in a lot of cases. So we'll click duplicate meeting. And that's going to take us to generate a new meeting here. So we're going to go in here. Maybe we want to call it like board meeting September or September board of directors meeting. And it copies over the details of the meeting, the attendance list from the prior meeting. We need to come in here and maybe decide what date we want it to be. Well, we meet on the third Tuesday of every month, so we'll move it to then. And we go ahead and meet actually at 8 p.m. at night. So we'll go ahead and just get that set up. Now from here, you'll also notice down at the bottom, it's going to copy my agenda from the prior meeting. Now, obviously, things are subject to change, and we can certainly change it, but it's taking over the framework from the previous agenda, and it's copying it into the agenda builder. I'll get to building the board package here in a second, but want to make a few callouts. You'll notice up here in the top right, this is set to unpublished. Meetings are by default, when you're an administrator and you're working on them, they are set to unpublished until you have decided to publish them. We do have stages, though. You can get the meeting details on the calendar. So if I wanted to get the details of this meeting out to the members that the invitees, I can send them a notification. This is what that notification prompt looks like that we mentioned earlier. You'll see where it says set up calendar. If I wanted to, I can also create a link to my calendar. So if you want to send calendar invites from OnBoard from your email, you just link your calendar here. It takes 5 seconds to do it. So I come from here and then I would be able to send a calendar invite to those members. So they could just add it to their calendar, RSVP to it. That will all trigger back here to the meeting itself. So the meeting's on the calendar. I haven't published anything else like the agenda or the board packet. But now's the time that maybe I want to start working on that. But before I do, I realize, hey, we would like to have a remote option. We use Zoom, for example, and just want to make sure that we have a Zoom invite for this meeting in case people have to join remotely. That's what set up remote meeting is for. That's where you can come in here, select your account if you have them. I don't have any set up to this one, but you could link your Zoom or your Teams or just copy and paste if you have another virtual meeting component that you use. Just copy and paste that information in there. Right now, OnBoard supports direct integrations with Teams and Zoom. So very easy to do. You could just click your Zoom account and click generate meeting, which would generate a Zoom invite, for example, for this meeting. Now, moving down the page, you'll see I've got my 20-section agenda. So last updated at 2/19, so I can start working on this. Well, last meeting, we were expressing appreciation for a retired director. That was sort of a one-off thing. I'm going to go to the big full screen here. We're not going to be doing that again. I'll go ahead and I can delete that section. As you see, everything automatically shifts. We need to move sections around, delete sections, add sections, subsections. We can do that here. OnBoard also has an import agenda feature. So if you have an agenda in a Word version, you can use it to upload your agenda into OnBoard and then have OnBoard create a readable version here within OnBoard so that it can start recognizing and building your board materials. So what we recommend from here is going into your files that you have. And these could be files that are tied to this meeting. You've got certain reports. I've got, for example, let's go to financial report. So I've got this Excel spreadsheet here. I just simply drag and drop it to that section. I've got, let's say there's an operations update here. Want to move that. That's now a PDF. So we'll go ahead and drag and drop that in there. There could be multiple files at a time that we can drag and drop. It's very easy to do. Now I'll click the three dots here, and I don't like the way that it says 5 in front of it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And we're going to go ahead and hit save. So it's going to update that. Cell spreadsheet, PDF. What will happen is ultimately once we've compiled this entire packet with our different reports, OnBoard will create a physical PDF packet for the directors to review. I will show you what that looks like here in a second as a finished version. But OnBoard creates the hyperlinked agenda. It creates a cohesive PDF document that's page numbered. That does that for you. You do not have to convert files offline and update them in here. You can simply drag and drop it in here in its current format, and then it's going to do the rest. Now, let's say there's a, litigation update and we have someone on our team that, our CEO provides that or our in-house counsel provides that. We can go to edit details. We can add in the description for this section. We can add in the documents here as well. But we want to get that report from our counsel. We can come into permission section members. This will pull up everyone that has access to that section. Antonia is our in-house counsel. We can make Antonia a contributor. So not an admin for the meeting, but Antonia is now getting a notification prompt letting her know that she has been requested to contribute her report for the upcoming board meeting. So now we're going directly to the source that's getting uploaded into the packet. So we're creating a collaborative experience here within OnBoard, so where we're getting reports from different contributors, they're compiling it here within the tool. We can review it. If we need to make edits, OnBoard has a integration with Office 365, so you can go in right here to the financial book, for example, open it, fix a typo, make corrections, edit it, save it in real time. It's all about creating real-time edits, real-time updates, so that you can ensure that your directors are always viewing the most up-to-date version of any document. There's no editing, re-uploading, republishing. It is seamless. I don't have to go and now send an entirely new PDF out to somebody. Say, hey, disregard previous version, see attached. I'm able to push those changes out. It saves automatically, but I can also go up here and hit save changes. It's still a draft, so maybe I'm not even done. I want to just log out, go back and, work on something else, come back later, keep working on the book. I can do it that way too. Now, I also want to call out here, we do have something called agenda collaboration. You'll see where it says no status up here. And you'll see these little things here next to certain agenda sections. If there is ever anything that requires workflow or review within, this may be something we're bringing to the board. It might be the review of a specific document. You want to decide, is this something that's going to make it into the board meeting? You have the ability to assign reviewers and essentially push that out to that reviewer for them to review, leave comments, and ultimately approve if that's something that you want to raise for consideration to be discussed at the meeting, something that's going to be added to the agenda, or what have you. You'll notice up here there is statuses, so we can submit for review. Also, we can look to see who's contributed what, and then also finalize once we know and want to lock in our agenda. That is not something you have to use if your agenda process is more straightforward. If the agenda stays relatively similar meeting to meeting and there's not a lot of discussion around what's going to be discussed, that's something that you may not see a lot of value in. But for organizations where there's more of a workflow involved in discussing, reviewing, approving, that feature can be really helpful. All right, so let's go back to meetings here. I'm going to disregard the packet that I was building, and I'm going to go to my my board meeting in December. I'm going to flip this because for some reason, I just like, oops, I just like the view of having my furthest out meetings down at the bottom. So I flipped the view. I'm going to go to my December meeting because I've actually built out a board packet here. So this is that board meeting. I've got my board of directors, similar board meeting. This is the one that we copied over earlier. So I'm looking down here. I've got a board packet, except I've actually built this one out a little bit more. Well, you'll notice up here at the top, it's set to all visible. I've gone ahead and published this. So now people can view it if they want to. And all they would have to do is click open book. And we saw that you can also click open book right off of the dashboard. So that's an option as well. So like I'm scrolling this document, you'll see I've got this hyperlinked agenda on the left-hand side. That just means I can easily navigate this packet from agenda section to agenda section just by clicking the hyperlink. When I click on a page, it tells me where I am within the confines of the book. You can see I have the ability to take annotations, review, leave comments. So if I want to jot down some talking points, if I want to share thoughts or comments with other users within the tool, other members that have access, I can jot down those notes right here. I can call things out specifically. If there's something that sticks out to me and I want to flag it, ask Gilbert, why is that? Why is it listed that way? What's the justification? Hey, can we make a point to discuss this at the meeting? I can flag it, comment on it, share it with other people that have access to that section. So great for collaboration on the materials themselves. We've created a packet that's very easy to navigate, so I can get from one thing to the next. I will at the end flip to the director view so you can see how you would navigate from login directly into viewing materials. But in this case, just super easy from the browser, even as the admin here, we're seeing it already from the perspective of that board member. So you create it, compile it, and can preview it before you publish. So you know exactly what it's going to look like when they log in and view it. All right, so moving on to actions. Actions within OnBoard, we've talked about some of these already. We have right now, as you can see, 3 that are awaiting my response. So at any time, we can establish these. If I click Create New up at the top, that will show you the options that we have for organizations to create their own action items. To walk through this real quickly, I'm not going to, build out one of each of these, but more of the common ones that we'll see are approvals and e-signatures. Approvals are great for, anything where we need a quick vote. So it could be, a review of a proposal, approving a budget, approving bringing on of a new board member. Surveys are great for, hey, we need to nail down a time for a meeting. I'm going to send out a list of options. We're creating a new form that we need to be filled out, approved, signed. E-signatures. Questionnaires, if we're building more in-depth questionnaires. So commonly we'll see that used for DNO questionnaires, director and officer questionnaires, conflict of interest disclosure questionnaires. And then we have assessments where we're focusing a little bit more on performance, evaluation of that performance. So these are very straightforward. A lot of these have the same workflow to create. But let's click on one and we can see it. So I'll go to approvals to start. And I'll open it here. So just so you can see really quickly how this works and what the workflow looks like. We can establish a start and end date. This is something where if this was motioned or seconded, we can capture that here. We can leave a description. Do we need this signed? Supporting documentation. Who do we want to actually respond to it? Is there a discussion? And then out it goes. It can be created that quickly. There are a number of steps. Some are required fields. If you try to save it and you don't have your required field saved, it'll tell you exactly where you need to go, what you're missing, and allow you to easily resubmit. So this is designed for the transition to electronic action items. We want to capture that. We want a record of that. We want a timestamp of that. We want a signature attached to that. That's creating that audit trail that we're looking for. That's what action items allow you to do. If I go back to my action list here, I'll give you an example of one I've already built out, a board self-assessment, for example. So I clicked into this board self-assessment. As the administrator, I am now looking at the dashboard for an outstanding assessment. So I can easily come in, see who are my respondents, when is it due, what percent are complete, who started, who has it, and then if I need to go back and make changes or reconfigure, I can. I'm also, in this case, if you click manage here, I'm also set up as a respondent myself. So I'm setting this up, but I'm required to fill it out too. So I will go ahead and if I want, I can hit start assessment and I can take this. You see up here, it'll show us how far along we are in the assessment, but then it'll also show me the different sections that I have to complete. I've set this one up to be very generic, where it's just, on the same scale of 1 to 5 with comment. But we have different options for something like this. But as you can see it, as people respond, as we get responses, I'll get notified. I'll be able to check progress. I'll be able to send reminders to those who have not yet submitted their response to ensure that we're getting the results that we need and to ensure that these notices are going out. Hey, get to this. It's due Friday. We need your response today. The system is sending out that notification reminding them that it needs to get done. Now, in terms of compliance, obviously action items play directly into that. We want to have an audit trail for items like this. But now where does that information go? Do we have like a historical repository within the tool? The answer is yes, and it's in the form of what we call resources. So this tab is, think of it as like your historical retention center in OnBoard, your, kind of storage center, shared drive, what have you. This is where you can set up for your organization a resource center for all of your important documents, historical or otherwise. So if you want to get started with OnBoard and you say, hey, we want to go back 5 years to include all historical board data, you can do so. How do you want to set up your folder structure? Well, that's up to you. You decide, okay, maybe I want policies and bylaws. I want financials. I want, old board meeting minutes and old meetings and different documents. You can set it up however you'd like. And at the folder level, we can do a couple of things. We can disable document downloads if we want to. You can do it here at the folder level, the document level, or go into the settings. You can just do it at the platform level. So you determine, okay, what can you do with information? Do we only want you to be able to access it in OnBoard? Or do we want to allow maybe for certain instances for there to be the ability to export? You can also create exceptions. So admins, if you want to, for example, disable document downloads, but also give yourself the right to print a few copies here and there of the board book for your next meeting, you can set yourself up as an exception so that you would have that capability. I talked about permissioning earlier. This is incredibly important as it relates to compliance because I get to determine that maybe I set up a folder for an examiner or an auditor, and I want to make sure that they have access to a document. Well, I could add them to their own personal private folder, and that might be the only thing they see when they log into, when they access the resources. So I've set up this folder just for you. You're not privy to anything else in the tool. They're not going to see anything else in the tool. So we can permission very easily within the platform. So we'll go into policies and bylaws, for instance. These are just some junk files here, but let's say these are represented documents within your organization. You'll be able to see what type of item is it? Is it a link? We can hyperlink in here. We can video files, PDFs, Words, Excels, PowerPoints. Very easy. So we want to open a document. We can click on it right in here. Again, once again, we can make annotations. We can request signature on the documents. We can edit the documents, all right from within OnBoard. But you're creating that resource center within the tool. It's searchable. So if we want to, you're looking for something that is in particular, something specific, you can use the search capability for that. There's another question in the chat there around, can you set security permissions at the document level or only folder level? The answer is actually both. So the folder permissions, so let's say at the folder level, you set it to just be the board. That means by default, anything you upload in that folder will be accessible to the board. Now, if you wanted to, at this policies and bylaws level, I've set this to be viewable by the board members. But let's say there's one document or a couple documents that I want to set additional permissions on. I can click here and I can go to edit permissions. So by default, it will pull up the permissions at the folder level, but I have the ability to remove any of these people, or I can go in and just simply exclude them. So if this is something where, Amber, I want you to have access to this folder, but this one document within this folder I want to exclude you from, I can go in and do that. So it's very easy to be that granular with your permissions. Great question. So from there, we can easily decide who sees what. And that works also. So I'm glad you brought that point up because that also works within the book as well. So let's say you create a board package and there's an executive session. You want that executive session to exclude senior leadership, for example. I could have a section of the agenda that is simply hidden from those people. So that ensures that you can create one packet and then set different permissions to ensure you don't have to create multiple versions. Very easy to set granular permissions within OnBoard. Now, I want to call out here as well. I mentioned search within resources. There's also a search bar up here. So I have the ability to search not just the resource library, but I can search all across the portal. So if there is a document I'm looking for, something tied to a specific meeting or agenda, or even message history, a chat I've had with someone, I can search. And it says, by the way, you can search inside of documents too. So that means if I remember a document that was uploaded and all I remember is that, God, it was something in a board book. We talked about this one item and I just remember the name of that item, like that one company we talked about, but that's all I remember. I could type in just the name of the company, and even if it's only discussed in the context of a board book, it would still pull up that as a result because it's searching inside of all of the documents. I can also parameter search, so I can dictate date range. So it's like I know it was this year, so you can do it that way. So it makes it really easy to find things. There's going to be hard to miss something in OnBoard, and we see a lot of organizations that use OnBoard to store everything because it is unlimited storage. So choose wisely. I mean, choose based on kind of what you think makes the most sense. But we have organizations that are going back 10 years, more than 10 years, with their materials because they like having this repository. Last thing I will just say here, while I am on the administrative side, here is the help tab. Any user will have access to the help tab. But for administrators, we have a wealth of resources for you to get set up within the tool. One of the things we'll talk about at the end is if you want to set up additional time to speak with me or a representative here to discuss OnBoard for your specific organization. But in terms of training support that we provide, our implementation team is amazing. You'll work with an implementation manager. They will coach you through the implementation process. They will provide live training if that's your route. We also have a help center with training guides already built for everything. We have OnBoard Academy, which is self-guided administrative training and end user training within the tool. So you could set up OnBoard start to finish using OnBoard Academy, have it up on your other browser, have OnBoard on the other, and you're good to go. Follow along step by step. And we're talking set up within, a couple of days. OnBoard is turnkey. It's easy to set up. It's easy to implement. And as far as software goes, it's a quick implementation. So I wanted to call that out. You will also have access to 24/7 support, and you will have access to a customer success manager. So you can send that person, you can call that person or email that person, as well as call our support line 24 hours a day.